Hey guys, uh, been a little while, been out and about. I wanted to put together a little something on thinking more about just theologies as a whole, as the existence of them all. And I would just want everybody to know that theologies are a substitute. I don't think there is one that actually holds up through the entire Bible. And it seems to be the biggest problem with people understanding anything today. And it even goes outside of the Bible. Politics is a very similar type of psychological belief system, as theologies go. And people will say the craziest things to support a theology or a political persuasion. And I think that's what separates the wise from um, I don't even know what you'd call them, the inducted, you know. Um, when you don't have the ability anymore to see the forest, once you focus in on a single tree, and all these things seem to work well up until you hit certain verses in the Bible, and it's like people lose the ability to notice that they're bending the verse um, so far out of context that I think anybody that is wise and says, that there is a harder point to understand here would easily understand that there's an issue. And what I've noticed with all these people, the thing that they share in common, it seems to be, is that their theology is the salvation belief. It is the theology itself. And people have come so far away from the quality of one's character, and I did a video earlier to He Who Overcomes. I think it was the last video I did before this one. It's simple. If you just look at the book of Revelations, no matter what you think about the rest of the Bible, and I think this is what people really need to get their heads around. If you read Genesis and you read Revelation, um, I think it is kind of simple what's expected of you, what's put forward. And I would say that, Revelations does clearly kind of lay out the case that the rewards are for those who overcome. Now, I think that the works that God performed in Jesus, when he says, my Father does the works, I don't think he's talking about the works that we will perform. I think he was talking about a very specific thing, and that was the miracles and the like. Um, and then Jesus turns around and says that they would do greater things. And, God's works are what should be the real theology, I guess is how I would put it. Theology has taken a seat so high that it makes, in I'll say one group that takes a lot of flack, and I'll say rightfully so, is the Jehovah's Witnesses over their kind of seclusion teaching, their seclusionary nature. They forbid asking certain types of questions. It's a very controlling system in that regard. But you know what? Catholicism, Baptists, Calvinists, I mean, they're all the same. They are seclusionary theologies as well. They all strip you away from common sense. And I think that is the thing we need to keep sight of in all of these beliefs. I don't care whose beliefs it is. If it causes you to violate common sense of the text, and even in life, if you're going to sit there and say that, something happened because, God made this guy kill someone, or you know what I mean? Keep your common sense intact, because when you lose your common sense, I think you just lose the ability to even seek out what the truth is, when you have to do all these things to make your belief hold up, it's a lot easier to change it. And I think that's why, the good thing is I'm seeing in the world today is theologies are breaking down. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of people out there who are theologically driven and accept the substitute for the real thing. And that's all theology is. It's a substitute for the real thing. It's a substitute for walking by faith. It's a substitute for experiencing God and Jesus. It's a substitute. It's a cheap substitute at that. What does it really offer, when you become a Calvinist? What does it really bring to the table? Honestly, it can't save you. Believing in Calvinism can't save you. Being a Calvinist does not mean you're saved. And, so atheism offers the same thing. Being an atheist doesn't mean you're saved. Being an atheist doesn't make you do any one particular thing. There's really no... What do these theologies offer? Why do they appeal to people so much? Why do people want to willfully put the blinders on and just stay in their comfort zone? And your comfort zone, before you inherit it, is not your comfort zone to begin with. It's a slow process of programming, of building up certain things that are just completely off limits. And, people would say, well, rightfully so, it's off limits. I think when it comes to the art of inquiry, I don't think anything is off limits when it comes to inquiry. Certain deeds I think are self-evident in the Bible that you shouldn't be messing with. That's a different thing. But when I'm talking about getting to the legitimacy of a theological belief system, nothing should be off limits. And all too often, I've never seen a theological argument that doesn't hit a point where the person will basically admit a couple of things and say, yeah, well, I don't have, that doesn't make any sense, you're right, and this and that. And then they go right back to the theological system. It's a substitute. It has no power. It doesn't make you wiser. It doesn't make you do anything except willfully blind yourself to plain common sense truth. If Calvinism is true, there's really not much of a point to being a Christian anyway. It's not you doing it. It's not, what's the point? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if you're in the wrong belief system, because you have no say in them. I mean, I don't understand. I do, but I don't. I don't understand why people would trade a theology for a relationship. And they go, look at the Bible idolatry that is rampant these days. They worship the books, just like the Pharisees worshiped the scrolls. It was no different. And we find ourselves doing this today. The Bible is above reproaches, and there's quite frankly things in there that have been manipulated by men. There is no doubt in my mind. But this self-perpetuating system makes you unable and terrified and paralyzed to even react and respond to the stuff that they've done. And they construct the most odd and just huge, it's just like Hitler said, if you want someone to believe a lie, make sure it's a grandiose lie. It has to be a lie so big that you'd have to say no one would do this. It's the little lies people catch. And I will say, in this age of information, I am glad to see these theologies are coming under scrutiny, rightfully deserved, and for many people, they're just falling apart. They're just plumb collapsing into the ground. Because I think when people are shown, and that's the key, you got to be able to show them in some form, to some degree, that the relationship is more powerful and it's real. You know, I don't blame people for not having a relationship when all they've known is theology. Theology and a bunch of people, you know, forming a little gang, and that's what most of these churches are, is gangs. They act out against other people, you know, the violence, you know, and I'll get on that topic shortly, I think, the self-defense violence type topic. But, you know, as a whole, this whole thing is teetering. And I don't blame an atheist for being an atheist, quite frankly, with this mess that we have, these ridiculous, and that's what they don't see. A theologically driven person just does not see that they just appear crazy to everyone else. And not the good kind of crazy, like I'll go out and die for my belief. No, it's just crazy. Just plain old crazy. You know, and man, I don't even know what to say about it in some senses, but I will say that those of you who have been watching a lot of videos have been kind of quiet, and there's some really great stuff coming out, and I just like to encourage you guys and just say, you know, always remember it makes a difference. And no matter what you think is going on, it makes a difference. And you got to keep, you know, consistent in your pursuit of the truth and keep making it known, and not to be scared that when you encounter a common sense problem that doesn't have an answer that makes any sense, you need to change your belief. But there's been some great stuff out there. You know, Sir Williams, McMurdo, you know, Brother Kell is always, you know, he's a master at conveying his message and pursuing the truth to the best of his ability. Uh, there's just a bunch of guys out there, you know, this bearing righteous fruit guy now, and people I've just been watching and coming across, and it amazes me that there are so many people who can at least cut through to some very concise points about the truth. The truth can be an elusive thing sometimes, but you know, you guys, I would just keep going. I mean, it's great to see this stuff. It's been beneficial to me, I know, and I would just ask that if you are in one of these theological beliefs, whether it's JW, Trinity, oneness, you know, whatever it is, remember that when the people that wrote these texts, okay, whether they were Greek or Hebrew, you know, whatever, when they wrote these texts, it's important to understand that none of this stuff exists, and that should make you suspect. It should make you immediately suspect to the substitute garbage that's being peddled, because there are no Calvinists in the Bible, right? There are no Trinitarians in the Bible. There are no oneness apostolics in the Bible. There's no Jehovah's Witnesses in the Bible. You know, even looking at some of these doctrines, if you just do a simple historical study, you don't even have to get in the Bible, because that's what people will do. They'll say, well, you know, I can't question anything because the Bible has been translated and laid out before me this way. But just study the history. Jehovah's Witness is a new belief. There is nowhere in history where this even appears to be the first belief. It doesn't. It's much later. You know, even Sabellianism, it doesn't answer your question. And Trinitarianism, Calvinism, these are all later systems that they're like scaffoldings that are placed over the statue that is the Bible. And depending on what curtains they have up, you can't see. And that's what I would, you know, stress to guys in these theological systems, especially if you're already on the fence, if something's eating at you. Understand, when you willfully do this over certain parts of the Bible, you just can't see. And that's what I would tell these brothers trying to help get through to these guys, is they can't see. You can't get mad at a blind man. And I'm not saying that to insult anybody. I'm just telling you the truth. If someone has blinded themselves, it doesn't matter who blinded them. If it was their pastor, their friends, themselves. The bottom line is they're blinded. So you're going to have to find another way to communicate with them. You're going to have to, whether it's through their hearing, their touch, their sense of smell, to use metaphors, you're going to have to get through to them in a different way because they can't see. And the most powerful thing that I found in my own personal life that affected me is cause them to think. That seems to be the most important point in all of this. Cause them to think. And, even in my videos, I'm not trying to win you to my side. I'm just laying it out there. How I've seen this put together, how this makes sense to me. And there was a time I couldn't have seen it. But I was honest with myself and I thought about it. I said, are there different ways of looking at these passages in the Bible? And it comes to turn out that they're really not as many as Trinitarians like to think, that they think Jesus is God, that it represents that. There's not as many as they perceive to be. And I'd say the first 80% of them, you could push them over with one finger. They're straw man verses, the way they construed them and constructed them. They just don't hold up. So just remember that when you're trying to reach some of these people, it's one, keep at it because it does matter. Two, you have to remember they're blind in a sense. They literally just can't see. So you may have to kind of go around and make auxiliary points to the main point, if I'd put it that way. If you're trying to get to A, you might have to go to C, D, E, and Z first and get, if you can help them to understand these auxiliary beliefs, these other beliefs that conflict with the Trinity, or Calvinism or whatever, and then you go to the main point. You may have more success because they literally can't see. And I don't, I'm not gonna sit there and say have pity on them. I'm not gonna present it anyway like that. I'm just gonna say that I think all of us who have come to this belief have been in this boat ourselves. We were blind at some point, and I would tell you that I think it's a self-inflicted blindness. It's just you refuse to hear the truth. I mean, what do you do? Somebody tells you 2 + 2 is 4, and a person says no, it's 5. What can you really do? All you can do is beat around the bush in a sense, and then go back to the point and see if you can get them to think. So keep up the good work, guys. I've been enjoying your videos while I'm been out and about. God bless.